Perfect. We've got our whole list. Now let's spice things up and set up multiple pages. And it's going to be step by step process where first I would want to go over the general idea. Notice we have the list of followers, but what I would want is to display only certain amount of followers at the time, whether that is 3, 4, or again, maybe 5,000, whatever you'd want. And the idea is somewhat simple where we have the whole list. We have this one giant array, but instead what I would want is array of arrays. So I have array of 100 items, but instead I would want array of, for example, 10 items, but then each item is going to be the array of those 10 items. Hopefully that makes sense. Where instead of one giant array, I'm going to have array of arrays. And then, of course, as I'm clicking on the buttons, I'm just displaying certain array in that array of arrays. So if I would want to display array number 4, then of course I would click on a button. And now, of course, I'm displaying fourth array. And in that fourth array, I have these items. And in order to set this up, we're going to have to navigate back to our project. And then remember in the utils, we have this paginate function. So first, I would want to import that paginate in my custom hook. Notice, I already have the import for paginate and it's coming from the utils. So instead of simply going with set data, eventually we'll pipe our data through the paginate. And instead of returning this whole list, we'll return array of arrays. Now, for the time being, I simply would want to invoke it and pass in the data. And nothing is going to happen, don't worry. We're still setting up set data with our whole data. So we're going to go here with paginate. That is my function name, of course. And then I pass in the data, whatever I'm getting back from the server. And then in order to see better what is happening, I'm just going to navigate back to my utils and then more specifically paginate. I need to name that argument. So in there, I had it as a data. In here, just to be a bit more explicit, I'm going to go with followers. And then if we console log, we should see the same array of 100 items. But of course, this console log is coming from different place. So we're going to go to inspect. And in the console, you should see the same thing. Array of 100 items. However, of course, now it is coming from the utils, unlike the first time when it was coming from the app.js. And what's the plan? Well, I have my data. Beautiful. But what I would want to return from this function is not the whole list of 100 items or 5,000 items, is array of arrays. So some kind of array that splits up all those items in a separate array. And first we would need to decide, well, how many items per page we would want. So in here, you can go with 500 or, no, sorry, I'm over exaggerating. Don't go with 500 because our array is only 100 items long. So I guess, I don't know, max probably go with 99, but probably it's going to be a bit more interesting if you're going to go with 10, 9, or something along those lines. So in my case, I could go with 10, but since there's something that I would want to showcase, I will eventually change it to 9. But for time being, we're going to go with 10, and we're going to set that up in the variable items per page. And again, come up with your own value, but in my case, I'm going to start with 10. So that is how many items I would want to showcase at one point. Notice as I'm clicking, I have 10 items displayed on the screen. Okay, good. Now, of course, we would need to calculate, well, how many pages do we have? And in this case, I would want to divide the length of the followers of my array that I'm passing in with items per page, correct? So we go with const and then page. And now we're going to go with followers and then dot length. So whatever amount of items I have divided by items per page. And in this case, everything is going to come out beautifully because we have round numbers. If we console log pages, we should have 10, correct? 100 divided by 10, last time I checked, is 10. So if I console log in my star, I should see 10. And at the moment, I don't see anything. So of course, once I navigate to the starter, I see my 10. And that is awesome. However, what if we don't have round numbers? What if I go with 9? So I would want to display 9 items per page. And then once I divide 100 by 9, what kind of value I'm going to have? I'm going to have 11 dot and then 11111. Now, do we really have 11 pages and then 0.1? Or instead, we would want to have round numbers. And then since that 111 represents that one last item that needs a separate page, that's why we'll use math ceiling and we always round up. So that way, in the last page, I'll just have those remaining items. So we go here with math ceiling, and then we pass in the same values. So followers, the length divided by items per page. So in this case, you'll notice that we'll always round up. So in this case, I have 12 pages. So in that 12th page, I'm just going to display remaining of the items. So I'll have 11 pages, full pages with 9 items per page. And then in that 12th page, I'm going to display that last item. Okay, that is good. And now, of course, I would want to create that array of arrays. And for that, I'm going to use array dot from. So in here, we're going to go with const new followers. So some kind of variable name. And we're going to go with array dot from. Now, array dot from is cool because we can create arrays from the iterables or from the objects. In this case, I'm going to pass in brand new object. Now, the one thing that we need when we're setting up new array is the length property in our object. So in here, I'm going to go with length property, and I'm going to set it equal to my pages. So now what I'm doing is I'm creating new array with that many items. So in this case, I have 12. So you'll notice that once you console log new followers, like so, you'll have array of arrays, and there's going to be 12 items. Now, of course, all of them are undefined at the moment because we haven't set up the rest of the functionality, but it is already a good start where I have array of arrays. And now what I would want is every time I'm setting up this array of arrays, in each item, I would want to pull certain amount of items from my list. So remember, I'm passing in the whole list, the list of 100. And then I would want to iterate over this new followers. And then in each iteration, depending on the index, I would want to set up first 9 followers, then next 9, and then all the way to 12, where we'll pass in remaining of the followers. And we do that by passing in the second argument here. And we can access the item first. So just like with map, we have a callback function, and then the first argument is that item. But we really don't care about this item because this is going to be undefined anyway. What I care about is the index. And then as I'm iterating over, then whatever I'm going to be returning is going to be placed in that item, which currently is undefined. And I'm going to set up some kind of variable for start. So I'm going to go with const, and then start is equal to index times, and then we go with items per page, like so. So the first time, of course, the index is going to be 0, correct? Next iteration is going to be 1, then 2, and then every time I'm just going to multiply this by items per page. So if you want to take a look at the start value, you console log, you'll notice that the first time it's going to be 0, then 9, then 18, 27, and all the way to 99. So that's our starting point. That is the value that we'll use to pull out the followers from our main list. And we'll do that by using another array method, and that one is slice. So in here, I'm going to say return, then followers. So this is my whole list. Okay, keep that in mind. I'm not talking about new followers, talking about the whole list. And we go with slice method. So what slice method is doing, it is pulling out the items from the original array and setting up the new array. Now, one thing we need to pass in is the starting point. So where we would want to start grabbing the items and where we would want to end. And this is where I pass in my start. So my start position, which notice every time is changing. Start with 0, then we go with 9, 18, and all that. And then I just go with end position, which is not included. And that is very important. I go with start plus and then items per page. So in the first iteration, the start is going to be what? Well, it is 0, correct? And what we're doing is we're pulling out followers from our main list. We start with 0 and then we end with 9. So our last index is going to be 9 because we go with start, which is 0 plus 9. And 9 is not included. So essentially we'll get items starting from index of 0 all the way to 8. And of course, that returns us 9 items. So now if you'll console log the new followers, you'll notice that we're getting the array of arrays. Every time we're iterating, I'm just grabbing items from my main array. I start with 9, then another 9, and all the way to 99. And then eventually I have that last item. Again, just to go over, we set up how many items per page we would want. So if I'll change this to 11, what is going to happen is I'm going to have less pages. So in this case, I only have 10 pages, but of course I have different amount of items in a page. So now I have 11. So that's when I said that you can change this value however you'd want. The functionality still works. Now, of course, don't set up 500 items per page because, of course, we don't have 500 items in a list. But if it's something reasonable within 100, then, of course, it is going to work. So I'm going to go back to 9. Then we set up our pages. So how many pages we'll have. And then we create array of arrays using array.from method. And then in here, I pass in empty object with length property, because that is what the array from requires to create that new array. And I set it equal to pages, whatever is that value, whether that is 12, 20, or whatever. And then as a second argument in array from, I can pass in callback function that just iterates over my array. Now, keep in mind, I'm iterating over those 12 items, not the 100. And as I'm iterating, I would want to use the slice method, where I'm going to say, well, grab from the original list those items with starting point and end point. But since I would want to set up those values dynamically, I'm just going to use the index. I'm going to say, well, get me the index of that page, and then every time multiply it by items per page. So that way, my starting point is changing and also my endpoint. So as I'm iterating, I'm just grabbing the values, and then eventually I have my array of arrays. And what we would want to do is, of course, return that new followers. So we're going to go here with new followers. And now, of course, we'll have array of arrays. Now, I can tell you right away that if you'll change this around right away, our functionality will break. That's why we'll set up everything in the next video as far as displaying only one array at a time. So only one page at a time.